Okay, good afternoon all. Okay, this is Amit Kumar Shinde. Okay, now I hope so that presentation is clearly visible. If any difficulty is there in the visualization of that presentation or whether my voice is clearly audible or not, please confirm it. After that, I will start. Please confirm that presentation is clearly visible on your screen and my voice is clearly audible so that I will start the session. महेश घुले Mahesh Ghule, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Whether presentation is visible on your screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Shall I start then? Okay, so this is the in this today's session we are going to discuss related to the introduction to the welding of plastics. Okay, now this is the in this chapter this we are going to deal with the different joining methods, or you can say that different welding methods which we are going to use for joining or welding of the different plastic materials. Okay, now in this as far as our syllabus is concerned, we are having these some 7 or 8 types in our syllabus: hot gas welding, then hot tool welding, then high frequency induction welding, laser welding, infrared welding, ultrasonic welding, and friction welding. Okay, these say I think 7 types are there. These 7 types we are going to study in this welding of the plastics. Before starting this actual welding processes, first we'll go through the what is the meaning of welding of the plastics and why it is needed. That is, you can say that importance of this welding of plastics. Then what will be the outcome at the after studying this chapter? Okay, point wise we will study that. These are the contents. Already I have discussed this. Hot gas welding, hot tool welding. This hot tool welding is also known as hot plate welding. Then high frequency induction welding, laser welding, infrared welding, ultrasonic welding, and friction welding. All these welding processes we are going to study related to the plastic material only. Okay, we are going to discuss their basic working principle, and then what are their advantages, disadvantages, particular applications we are going to deal with. Then to for better understanding of this welding of the plastic materials, some prerequisites are there. These in that prerequisites you should have basic knowledge related to the plastic materials, means related to their classification, what are their basic compositions, and after that you should have the basic knowledge related to the welding processes. Okay, I think this part basic knowledge of welding process, this you have studied in the your first year or in the second year. Okay, this part is already you are aware of. Then now what is the meaning of welding of the plastics? Okay, now in short, welding of the plastic is the process of creating a molecular bond between the two compatible thermoplastics. Okay, compatible in the sense two thermoplastic materials can be joined. Okay, there may be different types of plastic materials that cannot be joined. Means bond is not possible to create any bond between that two particular plastic materials. Means they are non-compatible. And compatible means you can create bond or you can join that plastic materials by conducting that some procedure. Okay, that is termed as compatible. Compatible in the sense you can create the bond between that particular plastic materials. Okay, and then this welding, why we are performing this welding process? Okay, this welding process, you can refer the second point. Welding process will give you superior strength and it reduces the cycle time. Okay, and then there are three main steps in any kind of the welding operation. Already you are aware about this. Some pressing operation may be there, applying the pressure, some heating, and after that we are going to cool that. Okay, now and basically plastic welding processes are differentiated with, on the basis of heating medium used. Okay, there are different types depending on the heating medium used, and there are also different types depending on by the medium through which you are going to apply the forces. Okay, that further classification we are going to deal in the later half of this lecture. Now basically what you have to understand, what is the meaning of welding of the plastics. Here we are going to create a molecular bond between two different plastic materials which are compatible. Okay, two different plastic materials which are compatible. And why we are going to perform this welding process? Because suppose you want to create a larger component or larger part. Sometimes it is very difficult or impossible to manufacture the larger component or larger parts or some complicated shapes. Now to achieve that, we can join that, means different plastic parts can be joined, or as you can say in another word, it can be assembled by performing the joining processes. Okay, it can be assembled to form a bigger part or larger components. For that this welding is required. Welding or any kind of joining process is required. And so this is the some discussion related to the what is the title of the chapter, welding of the plastics. Is simply welding means creating the molecular bond between two compatible plastic materials. Okay, and then next, related to the central idea of this chapter means what we are going to study throughout this chapter. In this chapter we are going to discuss how the different plastic materials can be joined with the help of different welding processes. Okay, different welding processes or different welding methods, and in that we are going to study these hot gas welding, hot tool welding, high frequency induction welding, nuclear welding, ultrasonic welding, laser, infrared, and friction welding. This is the central idea of this chapter, and what and why this is important to study this chapter. Already I have explained this. Sometimes there are some components are too complex or too large. Okay, too large to manufacture directly. That's why we are going to make that large component or large product by joining the different parts. That's why this welding process of the plastic material is very important. Okay, and then what will be the outcome after studying this chapter? You will be able to understand on the different welding methods or different joining methods which we are going to use for joining of the plastic materials, and depending on the type of the material, plastic material, which method is most suitable, that you can decide at the end of this chapter. Okay, means if you understood all the processes or types of this welding processes, then if some material, suppose I have provided you two plastic components or two plastic parts with their composition, then you can decide the best method for joining that parts. Okay, so this will be the outcome of this chapter. Then one by one we will study this. Before that we will go to the introduction or some basic classification of the joining methods. Okay, joining methods of the plastic material. Now already I have explained this, why these joining methods are required. Sometimes it is difficult to manufacture the complex component or complex single complex component or a single component having bigger size. It is almost impossible. Suppose it is having complicated shape, then it is impossible to manufacture. Then you can manufacture that component by assembling the different parts, assembling or joining the different parts. That's why these joining methods are required. Now for the particularly for the plastic materials, you can use the different joining methods. Okay, sometimes you can go for mechanical joining, sometimes you can go for adhesive bonding, and sometimes you have to go for direct welding. Okay, now what is the difference between this mechanical joining, adhesive bonding and welding, that I will explain in the next slide. Okay, this is the little bit summary related to the classification of the joining processes. If you are unable to see the classification of joining processes here, I have added separate one slide here. These are the main three types of the joining processes for plastic material: mechanical joining, adhesive bonding and welding. Okay, now what is the difference between these in these three that I have explained here? You can go through it. In the mechanical joining, okay, two plastic parts are joined with the help of some mechanical fasteners. Okay, like suppose you can join it with screws or some snap fit arrangement or press fit arrangement. Okay, with the help of some screws, snap fits or press fit, we can join the different plastic parts. Okay, we are joining it. This will be termed as mechanical joining. This will be termed as mechanical joining. And what is the disadvantages of the disadvantage of this mechanical joining? In this mechanical, whenever you are using mechanical joining, some leakage may be there. The tight joint is not obtained here. Some kind of leakage may occur here in the mechanical joining. Okay, then the second type of the joining for plastic material is adhesive bonding. Okay, two different plastic materials are joined together with the help of some adhesive material. Okay, one adhesive material is used and these two are joined. But what is the disadvantage in this adhesive bonding? Now, whichever join or a joint is created here, it requires, means for curing, it takes more time. Whichever adhesive material we are using here to joining two different plastic parts, it will take more time. That is termed as adhesive bonding. In the mechanical joining, we are using some screw arrangement or snap fit or press fit arrangement to join the different plastic parts. In adhesive bonding, we are joining these two parts with the help of one adhesive material. And then the third is the welding. Now, in this welding of the plastics, here what we are going to do, here we are going to use the heat. Okay, with the help of heat, that material is melted or it is softened, and after that, with the use of some pressure, it is joined. That process will be termed as the welding of the plastics. Okay, and this welding of the plastics, it will give you means better joints as compared to the mechanical joining and adhesive bonding. Better joints will be obtained by this welding method. Okay, generally these three methods are there. These three methods are there for joining the plastic material: mechanical joining, adhesive bonding and welding. Okay, this is the classification of the plastic joining processes or plastic joining methods: mechanical joining, and by which means you can obtain this mechanical joining using some screws, some snap fits or press fits. You can obtain this mechanical joining, but leakage is the, you can say that the limitation. Okay, leakage may be there in this mechanical joining. Then in adhesive bonding, you can use different kinds of the solvents or different kinds of the adhesive materials to join the different plastic material, different plastic materials. And what is the disadvantage in this adhesive bonding? Here the curing time is very high. It's little bit time consuming process. Now in the welding, we are going to heat that plastic material. It may be softened. Due to that heat, it will get softened, and after the application of some pressure, you can create the bond. You can create the bond between the two plastic materials. That will be termed as the welding of the plastics. Okay, now depending on the mediums used or tools used, it is having different types. And this welding of plastics we are going to study in brief. Okay, this welding of the plastic materials we are going to study in brief in this chapter. Okay, so this is the basic classification of the plastic joining methods. Now we will move towards the next slide. Now here you can see it clearly, or I have the same part. I have collected two slides I have added here. Okay. Now whichever welding processes are there, this chart is not visible in this slide. I have added it separately. Okay, this is the chart. First, I will explain it, and after that, you can go through the chart. Here, I have highlighted means the joining methods, plastic joining methods, and plastic welding methods. Separate chart for plastic welding methods. Now, you can go through this slide. The welding of the plastics. Okay, welding processes used for the plastic materials can be categorized in two types: external, the welding method in which we are going for external heating, and welding method in which we are going for internal heating. Okay, now what is the difference between external heating and internal heating? Now whenever you are doing, you can go through these points. Whenever external heating is done, we are having the separate types. In that separate types, you can understand what is this external heating. In short, external heating is some external medium is provided, separate heating medium is provided to melt that welding rod or whichever filler material is there, to melt it and to melt the that you can say the substrate or your parent material or that plastic material. That external heating is used. Now here the heating is done via convection and conduction. Okay, via convection and conduction. And generally we are using some hot tools, some hot gases, or some induction heating, or some implant resistance welding. Okay, here just I have categorized it depending on the heating medium used. Okay, external heating means the heating is done via conduction, and internal heating means the heating is done by conversion of some mechanical form of energy into the heat. Okay, some kind of friction may be there. Okay, just we are applying some force, and due to that force some heat is created, and that bond between two particles will be created. That will be termed as internal heating methods. Okay, some friction welding, ultrasonic welding, or okay, RF welding, you can say that. These are the internal heating welding methods. Okay, I will repeat it again. In the external heating, whichever weld surface we are heating, it is done by using the convection and conduction. Okay, and whenever internal heating is there, that mechanical energy is, with the help of mechanical energy, we are creating the heat. Directly heat is not provided in the external heat. Directly heat is provided, and in internal heating some mechanical energy is there and it is converted into heat. Directly heat is not provided here. In case of friction welding, in case of ultrasonic welding, we can say that direct heat is not provided. Okay, in this way, depending on the medium used for the heating, or through which medium we are providing the heat, these welding methods used for plastic materials are classified as in the two categories. In the welding methods in which external heating is done, and welding method in which internal heating is done. Okay, you can go for this chart. External heating, directly some heating medium is used, and through convection and conduction heat is provided to the that parent material or your workpiece. Okay, directly heat is provided to that workpiece. And here in internal heating, heat is provided to that workpiece indirectly, means some mechanical force is applied, uh, and it is get converted into by some using some means, we are converting it into heat. Okay, friction welding, then RF welding, infrared welding. Okay, during that discussing that actual type one by one, you will understand this concept. Means how that workpiece is heated, that plastic material is heated and it is softened. If you are using direct heating, then it will be external heating welding process. And if heat is created by any other means without any without providing any direct heat, then it will be termed as internal heating welding process. Okay, so in this left side you will be able to see the chart of classification of the plastic joining methods, and this right hand side, this is the classification of the plastic welding methods. Okay, you can draw this chart. I will wait for few minutes here. Please draw the chart, and if you are having any query, you can enter that in the chat box. Please draw this chart. It will be very helpful for you. Please draw this chart, and after this chart, we will start the actual processes, and that we will first try to learn the hot gas welding. Okay, hot gas welding used, how we are going to use the hot gas welding technique to join the different plastic components or plastic parts. Please draw this. Okay, after completing, you can put that in the chat box that you have completed the drawing, so that I will move towards the hot gas welding. Okay, it's completed. Okay, I think I have provided enough time. Okay, next we will move towards the hot gas welding of the plastic. Okay, now here the first and very important point is that this hot gas welding process, okay, as far as plastic materials are concerned, these are used for joining of the thermoplastic materials. Okay, this method cannot be used for joining the thermostatic plastic materials. Only thermoplastic materials can be joined here. Okay, and the temperature. Okay, here in this welding process, in this hot gas welding process, the temperature zone or temperature range, okay, whichever gases we are using, hot gases here, their temperature range will be in the means from starting from 200 degrees Celsius to 350 degrees Celsius. Okay, within that temperature range, that hot gases temperature will be maintained. Okay, so these are some important points I am telling you. And then after this, some basic preparation we have to do. Okay, this method is only used for joining the thermoplastic materials. And the next point is the hot gases are heated, or their temperature is maintained around 200 degrees Celsius to 350 degrees Celsius. Okay, in this range you have to maintain it. And whichever components you are joining, suppose two different parts you are joining, generally we are using, okay, I have collected some diagrams here. Okay, generally we have to make one V groove will be there. Okay, this type of V groove. This is the one separate plastic part. This is the second separate plastic part, and you have to create one means you have to do the machining or create the surface in such a way that V-shaped groove will be created here. V-shaped groove will be created. This is the another point. Okay, different kinds of joints can be made. Generally, whenever you are creating the using this hot gas welding, this is one plastic surface and this is the second plastic surface. These two workpieces you have to join. Now you have to prepare their surface by doing the machining operation in such a way that this V-shaped groove will be formed. Okay, V-shaped groove will be formed, and that V-shaped groove, this will be filled. Okay, here we are filling it, that will be filled. Now here you have to use the welding rod. Now we are going to use the welding rod. Welding rod is nothing but the consumable or the filler material. Welding rod is nothing but the material. With the help of that material we are going to fill this gap. Okay, we are going to fill this gap, and that material generally it is same plastic material will be used. Whichever workpiece material you are using here, from that same material welding rod will be made, and that welding rod will act as a filler material to fill this groove. Okay, it will be filler material. And now here how this gas welding is performed, hot gas welding is performed. One torch will be there. This is the welding torch. Okay, this is the welding torch, and the hot gases will be supplied through this welding torch, and through this nozzle. Through this nozzle, they will provide the required amount of heat. Okay, one nozzle will be attached here. This is the welding torch. Hot gases will be collected in this welding torch, and with the help of this nozzle we are going to focus it on this groove. And okay, in this way you can see here clearly, this is the nozzle through which hot gases will enter, and these hot gases will provide the heat to the surface, and they will melt it or soften it. And simultaneously this filler material or welding rod of that same plastic material, okay, same composition, or similar composition with this parent material will be taken, or workpiece material will be taken as the filler material. And this heating or heat will be obtained from this hot gases which are coming with the help of this torch and with the help of this nozzle. Okay, this is the nozzle, and this hot gases will provide the heat to the workpiece. It is also known as substrate, workpiece, or parent material. And simultaneously it will also melt this filler material. Okay, and after that the pressure is applied. Okay, pressure is applied after, means filler rod is provided here, and due to this heat it will get melted and it will get attached here. Okay, it will fill the gap. Okay, this in this way gap will be filled, and it is moved from one corner to the another corner. This both torch and this filler material will be moved by the operator. Okay, this will be done by one operator, and the pressure will be applied. Okay, pressure will be applied with the help of the, either you have to use this nozzle to apply the pressure, or either you will use this filler material, or that welding rod will be used to apply the small pressure. and sufficient time will be provided, and after that it will get hardened. Okay, it will get hardened, and these two workpieces or parts will get joined. So this is the hot gas welding. Okay, this is the hot gas welding process. Okay, I will repeat it again. Okay, generally this hot gas welding method is used for thermoplastic material, joining of the different parts of the thermoplastic material. You can make different kinds of the joints. This is the single butt joint. This is the double butt joint. Some angle joints are there. You can make this angle joint also in fillet. Fillet, you can also use it to make the fillet. And this is the flush joint. Generally, before performing this operation, you have to do the preparation of that workpiece or that specimen, you can say that, or substrate. Okay, and during this preparation, what you have to do, the surface is prepared in such a way that when these two plastic materials are joined, it will form a V groove here. V-shaped groove will be formed. Then hot gases, a welding torch will be taken which contains the hot gases. Now these hot gases may common air you can use. You can go for oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, or carbon dioxide. Okay, and the temperature zone you have to maintain in the 200 degrees Celsius to 350 degrees Celsius. Then these hot gases will come out from the tip of this nozzle, and one filler material or welding filler rod, welding rod will be used, and it will be made up of the same composition as that of this parent material or this workpiece. Then the due to this hot gases, this parent material will be softened or melted with this filler material or this welding rod, and it will fill this gap, and pressure is applied simultaneously. Pressure is applied by the operator with the help of this welding rod and this you can say the nozzle, with the help of that nozzle. And this joint or weld will be obtained. So in this way process is complete. After cooling you will get that joint. Okay, and in this way that two plastic materials will be joined. So this is the basic concept of hot gas welding process of the plastic materials. Okay, this is the schematic representation with different kinds of the joints produced, basic concept. Okay, here in this picture you can clearly see how this welder or operator is performing the welding. In one hand, he's holding the torch. This is the welding torch. This is the tip of the nozzle, and this is the filler material or welding rod. Okay, with one hand it is pouring that filler material or welding rod, and by using another hand it is providing the heat with the help of this torch. Okay, with the help of this torch you can say that it is providing the heat here, and simultaneously it will move from this one corner to the another corner, and this gap will get filled. Due to the heat, this filler material or filler rod will get melted, and it will fill this gap, and after cooling you will obtain the desired joint here. Okay, very easy process. And what is the limitation? Okay, what are the advantages of this process? It is very easy process and it can be used for thermoplastic material. And what is the disadvantage? It is very difficult to atomize this process. Okay, atomization, to bring any kind of atomization in this process is very difficult, and due to the manual operation some difficulties may occur. How this difficulty will occur or which kind of defects will get created, that I will discuss. I have collected some parameters affecting this process, and that I will explain it. But just you have to remember that as it is a manual process. Okay, that torch is operated manually. Then feeding means you can say that the welding rod or filler rod, it is also done, the feeding will be done manually. Some error may occur, some error may occur, okay, in the weld quality. And where it is used, broken plastic materials or parts can be joined. or sometimes you can say that here for which material it can be used for polyethylenes, then nylons, then you can say that polyformaldehydes for all these kinds of materials for joining these material different parts of these materials nylons polyethylenes we are going to use this gas hot gas welding. Okay, this is the whichever part I have explained you. And that summary is taken in this slides. Okay, I will just there is just one point which I have to explain it. The methods. Okay, there will be two methods in this hot gas welding. The one method is hand welding. Okay, one is the hand welding. In this hand welding, okay, in the hand welding, now what is the difference between hand welding and speed welding? Two weldings are there, hand welding and speed welding. Okay, so in the hand welding, whichever welding rod is there, okay, whichever welding rod is there, means it will be feed by the operator manually or with the help of hands only. That's why it is termed as a hand welding or fan welding also. Hand welding, free hand welding or fan welding also. And in case of speed welding, in case of speed welding here, whichever weld rod is there, weld rod and torch, okay, it is held in a particular no arrangement. Okay, nozzle is arranged in such a way that it can hold the torch as well as that welding rod. Okay, instead of holding it by the hand, here one arrangement is there, or you can say that nozzle is prepared in such a way that welding rod can be held in that nozzle only, that particular system only, instead of holding it in the hand. That's why it is termed as the speed welding. Okay, one how it is done, feeder tube is provided. One feeder tube is provided in that nozzle so that the feeder tube holds the welding rod. The remaining process will be same. Okay, this is the basic difference in the hand welding and speed welding. Okay, in hand welding what will happen, in one hand that hot gas torch will be there, and in another hand you have to hold the welding that weld rod or filler rod, and whichever pressure is required that you can apply with that weld rod only. Whichever pressure is required that is applied with the help of that weld rod only. And in this speed welding, in this nozzle arrangement, one you can say that one feeder tube will be there. In that feeder tube weld rod will be provided, and whichever pressure is required that can be applied with the help of nozzle. This is the basic difference between hand welding and speed welding. You can go for hand welding or you can go for speed welding. Okay, these two types of the hot gas weldings are used. Okay, and I will explain it again. In the hand welding, hand welding is a technique in which weld rod is applied to the joint by welder directly. And this method is also known as free hand welding, or it is also known as fan welding. Okay, the hot gas torch is holded in one hand. Okay, hot gas torch is holded in one hand to heat both that welding rod and that joint surface. Already that I have explained. Okay, so that it will that particular weld will get created. Now here, how the pressure is applied? Pressure is applied to the welding rod and controlled by the hand without any assistance from that nozzle. Okay, here nozzle is not used. Whichever pressure is required, it is applied with the help of that welding rod only. And where this method is used, this technique is suitable for. Generally, we are using this method only whenever there is a complex joint design is there. Okay, at that time we are only using this hand welding. Whenever complex design or intricate design is there, uh, at that time you have to go for this hand welding. In the speed welding, it employs that specially designed nozzle which can hold gas torch and a welding rod also. Gas torch and welding rod. Then this nozzle system is made in such a way that one feeder tube is there. In the feeder tube, weld rod is uh, uh, feeder tube holds the weld rod. Then this nozzle heats the weld rod material, okay, and with the help of that nozzle only pressure is applied, okay, and remaining process will be same. The bottom of the nozzle is designed in such a way that it will heat the surface, and weld rod will fill that gap or that groove. Okay, just you have to remember that in hand welding, weld rod and torch is means that operator will hold it in hand, and whichever pressure is required that can be applied with the help of that welding rod. And in the speed welding, in the that nozzle, some arrangement is made in such a way that gas torch, one separate feeder will be there and separate gas torch will be provided, and separate feeder tube will be there. In that feeder tube, weld rod will be attached, and pressure will be given from the nozzle. Okay, so this is the difference between hand welding and speed welding. These are two types of the hot gas weldings. Now this is the next point. This is process parameters. Okay, which parameters you have to take the means for consideration to understand the or to get the better quality of that weld during conduction of this hot gas process. During this hot gas welding process, these are the parameters. Okay, you have to consider these parameters. That is temperature of the hot gases. Okay, here you can use nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and these kinds of gases can be used, or common air you can go for it. Okay, its temperature you have to control in the temperature range 200 to 350 degrees Celsius. Then the application of the pressure. Okay, and while then next is weld travel speed, gas flow rate, torch orientation. Okay, all these parameters you have to uh, is control properly to get the means well finished weld, or quality weld, or quality joint. Okay, now in this gas temperature and flow rate, these parameters are system inputs only. Okay, temperature and flow rate, these are system inputs only. But whichever pressure is there, the travel speed is there, torch orientation is there, these are depends on the operators. Okay, these two, gas temperature and flow rate, these are system inputs. Okay, these can be controllable, but pressure application, then travel speed, weld travel speed, torch orientation, these are these you cannot control. Okay, these depends on the operator only. Okay, to control this, you have to provide the proper training to that particular welder or that welding inspector. You have to provide it to control it properly. Okay, now here you have to take care that whichever gas temperature you are providing, it should be sufficient. So means whichever temperature you are providing, it should be higher than the melting point of that workpiece, or whichever that substrate material or parent plastic material you are using, its temperature should be higher. Okay, then its flow rate of that hot gases should be properly controlled. This flow rate can be controlled with the help of some blowers or some air, you consider that compressors. Okay, that flow rate can be controlled. These two are controllable parameters. Then this pressure, travel speed, torch orientation, you have to control it. Okay, this torch orientation is nothing but, already I have explained it, two types of that hot gas welding. Torch orientation is nothing but hand welding and speed welding. In hand welding, the torch is operator will hold that torch in one hand, and in other hand it will hold the welding rod. And in the speed welding, one specific arrangement will be provided, and that torch will be there, and one with the help of one feeder tube, That weld rod will be feed with the help of that feeder tube only. Okay, and depending on this weld orientation, here some kinds of you can say that depending on the all these parameters. Okay, I will explain it according to the parameters. First I will explain related to this pressure. Okay, depending on this pressure only, the overall weld penetration, whichever groove is there or gap is there, it will be it will get filled in a quality way, or whichever weld penetration is there, it depends on that pressure only. If pressure, and that pressure is, here we are applying it that pressure manually. Okay, it should be properly controlled, otherwise that groove will not get properly filled. Then speed should be properly controlled. If weld speed is very fast, then what will happen, that weld rod will get stretched. And if weld speed is very slow, if weld speed is very slow, then what will happen, at a particular spot, a large amount of heat will get provided. Okay, at a particular spot, large amount of heat will be provided, and that part will get damaged due to the slow weld speed. And if weld speed is too fast, then weld rod will get damaged. Okay, in short, if weld speed is too slow, that particular weld will get joined, or that workpiece will get joined due to the heat, more exposure due to the heat. And if weld speed is too fast, welding rod or filler material will get damaged. Okay, so to get the quality weld, you have to control all these parameters: gas temperature, then flow rate, pressure, weld travel speed, and torch orientation should be properly controlled to get a weld having sound mechanical properties, better strength. Okay, so this is the hot gas welding. And hot plate welding, this we will discuss in the next session. Okay, now I will summarize this today's session. In today's session we have discussed okay, we have discussed the classification of the plastic joining methods. Classification of plastic joining methods. In that we have discussed mechanical joining methods, adhesive bonding, then welding. Then we have discussed the classification of welding methods, which we are using for joining the plastic materials depending on their heating medium or source. Okay, depending on the source used, external heating and internal heating, and their subtypes. And after that, we have discussed the hot gas welding, its basic working principle. We have understood with the help of this diagram which kinds of joints can be created, how these process is performed, okay, how the workpiece is prepared, how the actual process is performed by the operator to create the weld, then its advantages, disadvantages, and its applications. Okay, different kinds of the plastic broken components can be joined, and different kinds of the plastic pipelines can be joined, or in case of different joining the different plastic vessels also, okay, it can be used. And generally, this method is used for joining polyethylene materials, nylon materials, or formaldehyde materials for its components. Then in this different types of hot gas welding, hot hand welding, and speed welding, and the parameters, which parameters you have to control to get the sound quality weld. In this way, we have completed this hot gas welding in today's session. Mm, I will stop this session here only. Those who have joined late, you can enter your queries in the chat box, or if you are having, you can give your attendance in the chat box. Okay, thank you very much for attending this session. I will stop here. In the next session, we will discuss the hot tool welding.